is Northern Boards, Wangara speaking.
The classic Kurgan intro, right?
Is Wangara the one speaking?
Is Wangara, I am the entity that represents Wangara.
How's it been trying to adjust over from your general speaking when you answer phones to Northern Boards?
It has actually been a little bit challenging because I need to make a decision to choose either to just refer to myself exclusively as Kurgan, as we've discussed already, or Michael. And unfortunately, it depends on how much I'm concentrating.
Right.
If not, Michael slips back in.
Because for me, I've always referred to you as Kurgan. That was kind of my introduction to you, and I will get to the situation where before, when you were working at Games Workshop in Joondalup, I'll do the classic thing of, hey, you should go visit Kurgan up in Joondalup. And they would look at me funny. Who?
It's funny because I obviously we knew each other as kids, and then when we grew up, and I would call you Michael in the store, and then I always felt like I was saying a swear word, like I was somehow outing you on some sort of privateer that you were like trying to keep away from the masses. You know what I mean?
No, it was always that thing where when I joined Games Workshop, it was very much refer to yourself as Michael. It's an appropriate and more normal name than a name from an 80s film. Which we'll talk about. I'm
Highlander,
sure.
I believe.
Yeah, Highlander is correct, Kang. I don't have to bring it up.
Don't know if you're on the same thing where it's like, I guess we're from literally the exact same age. And it was like the burgeoning of the internet and internet personas. And something, I don't know if you had the same thing, but all of our teachers in tech, like the computer teacher, generally speaking at this point, was like, oh, don't ever use your real alias or like identity online whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah. So I think I feel like for our very specific generation, and it fell off very quickly after that, was that everybody had some sort of internet name, and that's where mine, Danny Hire, came from right from the get-go, and it's never changed. But I feel like a lot of people younger than us, directly younger than us, went straight back to using their full names and sentences.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then now you have the full turnaround where it's like parents are kind of like poo-pooed for posting pictures of their kids online whatsoever. And like, especially the young teenagers or middle, 12 to 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, they rally against their parents posting photos of them because they haven't consented to being online.
Yeah.
And they want to try and remove themselves as much as possible.
Because when I was growing up, the consensus became more of a case of, hey, everyone's using MySpace, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Yes.
And you have to use your real name if you want to use LinkedIn and Facebook.
I got into a few parties when I was a teenager because I was Danny Hire from MySpace, which is incredibly cringy and lame to admit, but it did work at the time.
Any parties
At the time, that was
Kurgan?
great. Yeah. So no, honestly, one of the biggest challenges I had was exactly as Denny said. It was don't use your real name.
Right.
It's not exactly where Kurgan came from, but after a while, it just became a thing, and you're known for it. And as soon as you're known for it,
Was this pre-Games Workshop or after Games Workshop?
no, this is actually post Games Workshop. So do you want me to explain?
Let's go into the deep laws, the ancient laws.
So basically, this is an excellent story about a youth who had no street smarts, people smarts, or social skills at all. Basically,
He's sitting right here with us today.
I'm right at the studio.
It's just the average Warhammer gamer walk here, sitting
There
right here at this
may
table.
be a reason I fit into these spaces well. Who knows? But yeah, basically, it is all because when I was a kid, came over from the UK, didn't necessarily gel with Australia too well, didn't socialize too well, and then found these amazing Games Workshop stores. And the guys there were awesome. They were really friendly. And most importantly, as far as I was concerned, they had, tattoos, and they were cool and they were funny. And people laughed when they spoke. And I thought, these guys are the epitome. These are it, right?
Love it.
So if I get approval from them, we're good. Go in and see Simo, who's now a customer at all the boards and fantastic guy, great hobby developer, and was a fantastic staff member there. And he said, "What's your name?" When I signed up for my first Lord of the Rings tournament, because I had no social skills, cannot stress enough, I thought he meant battle name.
Beautiful. That is beautiful.
Like that's the first thing you go to is incredible.
Yep. And so I've just seen the movie Highlander, Queen are my favorite band, Clancy Brown, amazing actor. It is one of the films, but I love it. And so I'm like, well, he's clearly the best villain ever, because I was like 13 or 12 or something, right?
Of course.
And so I'm like, he's the coolest villain ever. Amazing. And so I gave that name. And what does Simo say, bless him? He goes, oh, that's a cool name. I'm like, well, the cool Games Workshop guy. Approve my name. I mean, that's it, right? And then got to the tournament. It was the old conflict events, which Games Workshop used to run, which were all like a supernova, but for Games Workshop. It was fantastic, brilliant events. The guys worked really hard. They put on a great event. And I went along, and the guy said, "Oh man, what an interesting name you've got," and then introduced himself with his very normal name.
Regular name.
Dude, the names open doors. Maybe Danny Hio was the play.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't use your real name, you just get, the cool parties invited.
Maybe it's more interesting, right? But the problem is what had happened by this point is I was also super awkward. And I didn't know how to
backing out now.
I didn't know how to tell people that I just made a mistake because then I was going to lose face and then I would have to leave the country forever, you see, because that's how my brain works.
Yeah, we're already on number 2, so we can't do a third.
Right, exactly. And so basically what ended up happening was I didn't tell anyone. And then over 2 years, effectively, this persona and this identity of Kurgan was then genuine, but the name wasn't. And no one knew. But I developed friendships, went into the stores all the time. Every weekend I was in the Morley store or the Purse store. The problem is, I was then getting to know all the people in the other stores, like the Gloria Jeans nearby and everything else, right?
Of course.
So I'm being introduced to everyone, and then I'm meeting people's families.
And then the name just rolls.
And then just rolls.
That's all right. You went to Games Workshop Morley, right? So that was like very Eastern European over there. You got a lot of Italians and Greeks and Serbians. So you can they'd be like, this is normal enough, whatever.
You'd think so, except I got asked, where does the name come from? And then I'd have to be like, and then at one point I remembered what happened in the movie. I think some poor sod, I think I told, I come from the Eastern Steppes. And people look at me and be like, you literally talk about being English every chance you get. This doesn't make any sense.
See, I have a story similar in your sense where it didn't work for me though. Traumatic failure, right? I was outside, when I go outside and I'm out, say nightclubbing or, whatever the nightlife exists in Perth, I don't use my real name just because it's too much effort. It's too much effort to be like, hey, my name is Kang. It's spelled K-N-G. Kangaroo minus the Aru part. Too long. Don't worry about it. No one cares. I just go out and I use whatever name. One night I was convincing people my name was Jason. I was like, good to go. And then I was in line and there was this Italian guy, right? He was here for work. He asked me what my name was. I said, Jason. He looked me dead in the eyes and went, no, what is your real name?
Did you pick Jason because there's that classic meme of the Asian guy doing the American accent and he calls himself Jason?
No, because what happens was that when I go out, right, I try to get ludicrous with it. I try to convince people my name, crazy stuff. I was trying to convince people that my name was Jason Voorhees. But the big thing is people look at me and go, I don't know enough.
Is it telling that you both went with bad guys, like as your alter egos?
Yeah, they're cooler, right? They're cooler. So, and then there was one night it was like Jake Sully was my name from Avatar. I would roll with it. People don't know enough to say, I don't believe you, but also we're just here in the line.
You're in a Western like culture where they feel like they can't question anything you do, so you're probably fine.
Good to go. Roll with it. Except that one Italian guy who asked me for Dexys. So.
I mean, I was going to say, you're going to choose enough names, you're going to come across the dealer name eventually. Right?
Yeah.
The white sunglasses didn't help.
So you rolled with Kurgan for a while.
No, I rolled with Kurgan.
Rock and roll.
It all went terribly wrong because the Morley store, as you guys may remember, Morley store was an amazing store, but the Morley shopping centre had its challenges.
Yeah, it does. Yes.
We'll say that. And basically what happened was a couple of kids who were going in there and stuff, like needed to be made sure that they went home with the right parent and stuff like that. And so basically my mum turned up, single mum, lovely lady, but was a police officer for a long time. I'm in the back of the store talking about God's greatest game, Middle-earth strategy battle game, of course, as I still do. And basically I couldn't hear her. I'm at the back, can't see anything. And she's saying, where's my son? Where's Michael? Nobody knows my name. Blah, blah, blah. And it basically ended up with, my mum turning around and being like,
she dumped you in.
My son. Right. And then I heard the mum tone with Michael and I went, it's all over. So I stand up, realize everyone's gone silent. They're watching me. I walk out the store and they're staring at me like, oh, wait. Now, the thing is, I imagine what happened next is they go, what a muppet. He should have just told us. And they got on with their night.
Yeah.
But my next 2 weeks, because I couldn't go back to the store the next weekend, my next 2 weeks were hell. I was like, I've lost everything. I've been disconnected.
You start building it up in your mind.
Build up in mind. I go in there, but the guys played a joke. And seemingly innocent to them, but to me it was devastating. I went in there and they were like, hey, mate. And they hit the classic Games Workshop line. You ever seen this sort of thing before? And pretended for like 2 minutes they didn't know me, but I was dead inside. I was done. It eventually ended up sticking regardless, but yeah, I've never forgotten that.
I'm surprised you didn't try the I don't know who this lady is, please save me kind of situation.
Yeah,
right
you triple down and you go, no, I've convinced my mum that my name is Michael.
You have to understand that there's a direct correlation between the amount of happiness my mum had for me and how many Moria goblins I received. There was a severe damage to economic line, and I needed a lot of them. So
love it. And now we have you joining on the Northern Boards team. What it feels like everything's come around full circle.
It's truly cyclical.
Yeah. Because really for me, I would say that you've been a center of North of the River Warhammer for a very long time, and for one of my earliest introductions to Warhammer was through Games Workshop Joondalup. Danny, I imagine for yourself it was
yeah. Not to jerk you off too much, but for when you
is that the saying? Is that the saying?
I believe so.
But when you when we talked about you coming on board, the fact that you would even consider doing that like as part of our team was a huge honor to me, because I feel like in this state, you're, if not one of the most like influential person in this hobby by far.
Very kind of you,
like it's of all like there's a few like banger outstanding human beings in this hobby for this state, but like I don't think anybody else's reputation precedes them more than yourself. And just to me, it's like a huge honor, and it kind of made me double take on being like, oh, I should probably get my shit together, because this is, looks like it's going in a direction that may be worth
honestly,
it. Right?
No, I do very much appreciate it, guys, and I'll be honest with you. It's actually for me. It's actually like the flip side of that. So because I'd been coming in as a customer for a long time, and because of the nature of the inevitable nature of change that impacted the Games Workshop stores, when the community across the world, where the Warhammer community started seeking out friendly local gaming stores as the standard for where to go, I really loved the fact that it felt like walking into Northern Boards was like walking into a place that WA never had, and that I never got to go to, because I used to see those sorts of very much community-focused places. It's
the classic battle bunker, like in all the first edition White Dwarfs, you'd have these images of these people in these places, and it wasn't just wall-to-wall shelf of product. It was like, there was I don't know, like there was body there, there was feeling,
there was soul.
So much like you could really hold on to.
100%, and that's exactly it. And every time I went in, I had that nostalgia for something I didn't have, and that's exactly it. You've nailed it. It's in the White Dwarf when you see those clearly older guys and everyone else there, and they've brought in their model so everyone else can just enjoy. Yeah. And everyone else can get involved. And there's that immediate sense of wanting to be a part of that. And because you guys set that up, and I've said this to you, Kang, a couple of times since we've been working together, and we've spoken about this a lot, Danny. Until you work in these environments, you don't actually realize how much, in terms of tasks and effort and determination, it takes.
Oh, it's a labor of love for sure.
It is.
I think it's like many small businesses, unless you're in it and you're seeing the numbers and the effort and the work that goes into it, you will always assume. It's like the same as like whether you go to a cafe or a restaurant, you're like, oh, my food comes out, that's it, right? But there's hundreds of hours before that, and never so much more is unthanked in a hobby store. Like, it's like there's so 99% of it is done behind the scenes, and then they see you sitting there at a computer. Yeah. And it's like everything before that is mostly trivial, numb work, but it's like to get that final kind of like thing is definitely worth it. But there is a lot. There's a lot. And I think a lot of people think you're making a lot of money, and it's real blood out of a stone situation.
This is like a thing that's happening recently, right? And we'll get to it later on as well. We'll talk about MB Collect. What was it? I spent all day yesterday putting in 800 cards worth of random Magic the Gathering onto the website, and it took me probably 8 to 9 hours worth of work. And for a customer, it's 10 seconds.
Yeah.
They just click a card, add it to cart, check out.
They buy a $2 card.
And that's for them, that's their exposure to all it is, but they don't see the manpower hours behind the scenes. And for the average person, that will never be the case. But I think what we can provide to Northern Boards is that because of that community aspect, the community people just appreciate enough of it that we get enough out of it as well. They say, hey, these people are appreciating so much of it, it's worth us putting the work in.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the thing as well that I would say to our gentle listeners that I have sat there doing planning for events, and obviously, we've got some really big plans for the store, and the team as well have been sort of cracking into every aspect of it. But sitting there and getting up, doing a task, going back, doing something else, and literally watching you take a pile of cards and reduce it even slightly. And there's thousands of cards in that slight reduction.
Sisyphus in the boulder.
We had a very pointy discussion yesterday afternoon about longevity, and if we can like delegate tasks or find a better process to do it, so that a month from now, Kang doesn't blow his brains out on the side of the window. You know what I mean? Whether in a physical sense or a metaphorical sense.
Would be very interesting podcast content, though. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see that happen.
Although I will say,
edit, so shut the fuck up.
I'm not doing that much card sorting, Kang, so I'll reconstitute your brain and put you back together before you try to get away from it, mate. Absolutely.
It's I was saying there's pretty prevalent in any level of business, no matter what it is. It's called passion over profit, and the whole point is that anybody can go make a profit if they,
as the gangsters say, pushing peas.
Yeah,
it's like
my favorite.
I think the point is of what it's kind of referring to is that anybody can go make a lot of money if you bring down the level of how you care about it. Like, you can go do like really hard labor, or you can do something that you don't necessarily think is the right thing to do if you don't have any standards, right? But the point of the passion part is anybody can go out and make a lot of money because it's just effort. And that's what a lot of people lack, is the effort part, right? But you have to have a passion for it, because you can go and put in the 100 hours, all the extra work, they're not seeing your family, all that kind of stuff. You can do that, but if you have no passion for what you're doing or what the final objective is, eventually you're going to burn out no matter what that is. And I think that's something that is incredible about the hobby space is that you get to see directly the customers enjoy it, their feedback. You can tell just by the movement as they go from store to store what places they like and for what reason as well. And I think it's inevitably such a communal situation right from the core up. It really has such a reward, just whether it's people are opening packs and getting what they want or showing off their minis or the projects they've worked on, winning a game or just hanging out with their mates and getting food. All of those things have such a tangible thing. And I've really existed off the hobby for the past 5 years, not even playing a lot based on like the game we just played today. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just being in the presence of other people enjoying the hobby. And there's not a lot of other jobs where you can get that from, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
So for me, it's like I'm very lucky. Like I love driving my tractor around on the truck and I love doing the food because the food hospitality is very much the same. You get to see straight away whether people are enjoying it or not. But the hobby for me with that is like, I'll always take an opportunity to work on something or work with people where that can only be embraced further. So
I think that's the biggest thing as well, is that that's what I always felt as a customer. And as I say, you guys have said some lovely things on the podcast, and you said those same sentiments to me. But what's interesting for me is on the flip side, as the customer receiving that interaction with you guys, is there was always a distinct welcome, and that's a decision that's made every time someone comes in. And then also there was a celebration every time that I was trying something new. And I don't need it because I am around and I do work at the Games Workshop store at that point, right? And so you guys always made that. And so, when it was getting into Magic and things like that and exploring other games or whatever it was, it actually felt special. And that is where the soul comes in.
Yeah,
and it's an active choice that you guys made. So no, I feel incredibly lucky to be a part of the team. And honestly, I kind of feel like I'm the one who actually is honored and I got lucky. And I'm not blowing smoke either, like genuinely.
Oh, I'll take it.
You
can check me up if you want.
Okay. Well, that's a different podcast, Danny.
All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to hard cut here and we're going to come back and record in 6 months and see how much Michael fucking hates us.
But from what I gather from the community as well, it's been a very warm welcome to Kirk as well. Like everyone I've talked to behind the scenes, they love it, especially from people, because I imagine most Warhammer players were already readily aware, but for a lot of the card game players as well, they're like, oh, I love the new guy. I love that Kurgan's jumped on. I love his attitude, the friendliness. Northern Boards expanding out to having the open in the AMs now. We're opening from 10 a.m. during the weekdays. It was a massive change for a lot of people. People were so happy about having that finally come to fruition. We can do so much more exciting things. Like we are really pushing Old again now. Now we're going to push Horus Heresy. So much more of the game systems I would love to see we can finally get around to doing.
Yes.
It's spurned on like a rejuvenated excitement in all the boards. And I feel it as well. I think Danny feels it as well. We all love it. One of this, just the little bits falling to pieces and we love it. Love to see it. Plastic
It's been
toys.
really exciting. And as you say, everyone has been lovely. Like my biggest thing, my fear, I guess, was I knew you guys have made it very clear I didn't need to know the ins and outs of a card game. But what I was more worried about was someone's experience. If I'm getting cards wrong or I'm getting an event wrong.
Our real issue is if you learn too much, you would learn more than me very quickly and then I would look shit. So we need to set some realistic standards, all right?
Look, I promise you, Danny, that's why I'm committed every time someone buys a pack. But like, I hope you pull an Edgar Markov. And they're like, this guy knows literally nothing. Very good. But the biggest thing is that all the card game communities at Northern Boards have been so welcoming and engaging. Like from the Lorcana crew to the Riftbound gang, Gundam, the Gundam guys especially want to try to work out how to zoom in on a screen. But like genuinely, and our Commander Knights as well. Even the Flesh and Blood gang, they're watching me press the same button 5 times to work it out. But like they've been so welcoming and so engaging and actively coming over to me and be like, hey, we do this. Do you have some cool ideas? But this is what we like. And we'll give you that feedback. We would love you to be involved. We'd like to learn how to play the game. Mm-hmm. That's nuts. I'm literally, like, realistically, we've spoken about the soul, but I am just someone who's working there for those people, like you've said. But then they go out of their way, and that's something that you guys have fostered, and that's those communities and the heart they have in general. And I am overwhelmed by how lovely the TCG group have been, because I knew the Warhammer players, most of them would be excited. Maybe less those who ask specific rules questions that I definitely know the answers to. But no, but like genuinely, the TCG groups have all been amazing. It's been so lovely.
Now, how about that Middle Earth? Middle Earth strategy
How
battle.
about that Middle Earth? Kang, I can't believe you brought it up. I don't have a gun to his head, gentle listeners. No, look, it was amazing.
I have a script in front of me. Kurgan's like, please mention.
Absolutely. I have a whole deck of cards that Kang needs to sort. I'm going to shuffle them all for him if he dares not bring it up. But no, look, it was really cool. We had the doubles the other day, and Corey ran that amazing event, and yeah, just having that again.
When you started, when you started with Warhammer, was it Middle Earth strategy battle? Is that where the love starts?
It was the magazines. You remember the magazines,
absolutely,
of course. So yeah, the magazines were amazing. And for those who don't know, it was the Battle Games of Middle Earth magazine. Started with 12 Morio Goblins, and I was in Quinns Rock's post office.
Correct.
And
Yep, me too. Same one. Yep.
And it was in the bargain bin.
So your parents probably bought them. I got mine at the bottom of the skip bin when it was discontinued.
See, that's incredible. That's incredible.
I was in there getting Hyper magazines with no frontage and the Warhammer Lord of the Rings games.
I got it because I said to Mum, I'm like, oh, Lord of the Rings. And she went, you know what? You might stick to this. Because I'd given up, I loved horse riding, but it was too expensive. And then, I wasn't too expensive. I just didn't want to do it anymore because it was hard work. But it was also I gave up swimming, all this stuff. But then I stuck with it. And then, the magazines meant when I turned up to a Games Workshop store, when I found out what one was, Mum never forgets it. She's always told me that as soon as I saw the display in the window for Lord of the Rings, I tried to teleport through the very closed first store.
The jaw drops, the tongue rolls out.
I was in through that defensive screen. Yeah. But then basically that's kind of kept me in it. It was always Lord of the Rings, 100%. Yeah.
Because we grew up in Quinns in the same area, right? And then with the closest port to us used to be the Quinns would have the post office would have that magazine and not much else. But then at Joondalup Shopping Centre, if you remember, there was that cards and gifts place. They had a single individual line of racking of Warhammer paints, and directly next to it they'd have a bunch of tin enamel paints. I don't even remember this. They had no acrylic paints in there. So all my first Elder that I saved up for a couple of Christmases worth of money, right, to buy this box of Elder, I was so incredibly excited to paint these LD Guardians that I bought the enamel paints. And guess what, Kurgan? I'll give you 3 guesses on the utensil I used to paint them because I was too impatient to get a paintbrush. I'll give you 3 guesses. Go on.
You didn't use a paintbrush?
I did not use a paintbrush.
Did you use your fingers?
Close.
Spoon?
No, it's worse.
Toothpick?
It was a toothpick. No!
No. Hold on.
I can't believe...
In young Danny Hyo's defense, young Mr. Hyo's defense, as a kid, you would be like, oh man, these miniatures are tiny. I need something small to pick at the paints.
Honestly,
clearly.
You should have come to FBI agent because that's incredibly well done. Yeah. I was so enamored to get this stuff on there, and we lived up on the nowhere near the beach of Quinns Rock, so we were further back, right? So I used a toothpick to paint my first box of minis, and then I put PVA glue on the base of them.
Ooh, nice.
And I dunked them into the dirt sand in my yard. Yes. So it was black, and every time you'd put a minute down, a little puff of dust would come away from them.
Beautiful.
And it was horrific, right?
Please tell me you still have the minis. Please tell me you still have them.
I honestly now I wish I still had them. Yeah. I only got rid of them about 2 years ago. They were in the boards for the longest time, and it was part of one of the massive culls that I do.
We do. Yeah.
And I looked at them and I was like, there is memory here. I should hold on to these. And I thought, no. Because you guys have all been in the storage area and the sea container and my garage and this building that you're in right now. And hoarding might be a slight problem that I have. So I said, no, Daniel, you're drawing the line here. You have a lot of stuff. Throw them out. I put them in that silver bin that sits under our desk. Right? Somebody walked past. I wish I knew who it was. It was a regular at the time. I can't remember if they still come now. They were like, hey, what are you doing with those Guardians? And I was like, because you clearly see me putting them in the bin. Yeah. And I was like, oh, nothing, man. I've had them since I was a literal child. And he's like, can I have them? I was like, go for gold. So somewhere out there is my enamel
still
painted.
Exist.
Toothpick painted.
Okay, so you're telling me there's a chance you can reclaim them. Because they're painted with enamel.
If you're listening, can you give me one?
Actually,
they will be indestructible.
I did a story about Northern Boards from someone who's used our second-hand cabinet.
Yep.
So my dear friend Clinton, who is a wonderful person, even though he plays Thousand Suns.
Oh, I love Clinton because he is the
classic,
the word of impulse buyer. I will put the weirdest, stupidest shit on the shelf, and it'll be like no one's ever buying this. Clinton comes in, he's like, I'll buy this.
I'm like, that's pure love.
Fucking insane.
It's the pure love.
The thing is, it's because Clinton's one of the guys that I play hobby with, and we actually play a lot of old Hammer 4th edition.
Yeah.
And the thing is in 11th edition, upcoming, of course, very soon, and then in 10th edition currently, a lot of the units that we love aren't necessarily the best.
Yeah.
Quite
Yeah,
a fourth edition. God tier. So when we see those things, everyone else is like, that's just trash. And we're like, no, it's a treasure. You don't understand. And Clinton's the epitome. But he actually bought one of the first boxes he bought from me was a box of bikes years and years ago, over a decade ago, back in Games Workshop Joondalup. And then he went through a bit and he was like, I need to sell them. Sells them. We're playing a game of 4th edition for the first time. I swear it was 4th edition. He goes, I really wish I had those bikes.
Yeah.
And then he sends me a message at the store. I'm on my lunch break. I look down and it's just capital letters, capital letters, capital letters. I'm like, I don't remember insulting him today or insulting Magnus the Red. I don't remember, so I don't know what I've done. And he literally, after 7 or 8 owners, the bikes ended up back in the
come back around?
Incredible.
And all the boards, and he used his store credit to pick it up. It was amazing. It was
that secondhand cabinet in
awesome.
Northern Boards has been some crazy stories. I've sold minis that have, after 2 years, come back around and being sold again in the secondhand cabinet. This is just the infinite cycle of Warhammer. Dude, how about that? The story, the lore. I
Incredible,
love it.
right?
It's also funny to see something go and then come back, and it's like now it's selling for like 3 times the amount of money.
This is
You're
the
like,
call to
this
action
is like
now, right?
stocks.
It's a call to action to be like, we got to find Danny's old Guardians, old Dark Guardians.
Actually, yeah, if anybody can see enamel green radioactive...
So I painted them in black with silver top panels and white over like the armor guards.
that white would have been a slightly thick white.
It was thick, boy. And I think that the helmets were like enamel, like bright enamel red, almost like a stop sign. And it was like I was both had no skill and colorblind. It was very clear. It's kind of like when I dress myself to go out, and one of my friends would be like, "Try again."
Do you remember your first mini? Like, did you have a first mini?
I have 2 first miniatures still.
Do you still have
So I
them?
have my first Mario Goblin.
Love it.
It's in my cabinet with my granddad's miniatures that he painted, and I've got a little section.
And the seconds between his legs.
Correct. You nailed it. Oh, God. Cry for me. No, so Moria Goblin, which has seen the horrors of Moria. Its eyes are fried eggs.
Gotcha.
It is horrendous. And I've got
How young were you?
I would have been, I've done the maths on this, I would have been in year 7. So I think that
Right.
places me at 11 years
Young
old.
11-year-old Kurgan, holding that brush,
And,
steady for dear life.
I was very
Back
lucky
in our
to
day,
have,
year 7 was still primary school.
That is true, actually. Yes, of course. I basically have my Space Marine, who is, he's certainly one of the Space Marines. He's
the
covered in so
Emperor's
much
bravest warrior.
He is the strong. He is
Yes.
be strong, Clarence. Be strong for the Emperor. He is basically my first renegade Marine
Mm-hmm.
because I painted a Space Marine. Went, these guys are really cool. Read what an Abaddon the Despoiler was, and went
The evil guys at the core.
I'm all in.
I
and
see
it
it
was
gets
just red
cooler.
crosses exactly. But I have those 2 miniatures, and very very
My first mini was the young Kang walking into a Games Workshop. You know, what Game Workshop employee goes up. Would you like to learn how to paint Warhammer? Hands me a Space Marine brush. Go.
Did they look at you and instantly try to give you white scars?
No.
Why would you say that, Jenny? What context clues did you use?
I'm
I'm
inferring
glad
that
they
they
didn't
were
because
racist.
I'm glad
I'm sorry.
Because can you imagine a 9-year-old Kang and such being handed white paint at that time when white paint was built out of indestructible paint?
Oh, that would have been skull white.
Yeah, it would be impossible.
You're just
Oh
one
my
toothpick
God.
away from a masterpiece.
So I was handed I can't remember which edition it was, but it was the edition where it was like a Dark Angels on bikes on the starter box.
6th edition.
6th edition, that would be the one, right? And I painted my first mini, it was Dark Angels. And I still have it sitting on my counter, gaining dust. And for
That's
me,
so cool.
I thought about putting it somewhere aside, putting it somewhere safe, but no, the dust, it builds character.
Yeah.
The dust builds character, and it's that deep lore where
Yes.
you have a terrible day of painting and you go, I've come from somewhere. That's why I keep those 2 old miniatures.
Heritage.
You should always remember that you could do worse.
Yeah. Let us know in the comment section what your first mini ever painted was. I'd love to know.
I'm not going to go as far as saying mutual friend, but he's a mutual acquaintance for us. You remember Todd from
of
high
course.
school, right?
Yeah.
So Connor and I both, another friend of mine that went to school with you, we found his dad's Warhammer, some old Warhammer Fantasy from probably 2nd edition, I would say. It was like the classic that had the little green trees that clip together, like the bushy looking ones. And it was like really old stuff. Anyway, we found it. We asked him what it was. His dad was like, because he was like, his dad was like a real man's man, but he also built computers and did some like vaguely nerdy stuff. But he was like big Ocker tradie guy. Anyway, he said that's what it was. And if anyone who's a Perth local, it's there's a thing called Outpost 6030, which is now posted in South Perth. But that actually started in Queen's Rocks at where the Blue Light Disco
So
used
they
to be,
flipped
right?
entirely from the north to south.
Oh, it was in where the Blue Light Disco place was, and then it went to above the marina where the
Yes,
is.
that's
but
right.
It started there because it was postcode of 6030, and then it moved south and then south. But it actually started in like between those places, right? That's where they used to do it, and that's where he used to go play his Warhammer when he did it. Anyway, we find these things, and we're like, oh, this is really cool. So I go down to Joondalup and get my the gifts and cards and get my box of Guardians, and Connor gets he was playing Blood Angels at the time, or maybe Salamanders. Either one of those two, I can't remember 100%.
Based choices.
But he had also very basic choices of stuff that his dad had like cobbled together and something that he bought. And then my friend Todd, who lived on the much more affluent side of the suburb, because Connor was my neighbor and Todd parents come from Mindarie, so it's a little up to doing, right? His mother went and bought him probably about $1,000 worth of Warhammer.
Oh, so that guy. He had the army out of the bat.
In my grass, in my backyard.
As kids, that's royalty. That's
avoiding my dog from running everything over and my small brother getting too involved was the three of us playing Warhammers when Connor and I had about a unit and a half of guys, maybe.
Oh, no.
And Todd had a fucking, what was the pyramid thing?
Monolith.
Had a monolith.
You brought the monolith?
Yeah, and he had those old...
what the fuck? That's the schoolyard thing of, my toy is bigger than yours.
Remember the old destroyers used to have the be on the beetle back. Destroyer was sitting on top of that, and he had those and all these like metal stuff, and we were like, okay. and he lasered the shit out of our Guardians.
Yeah.
I remember there used to be a community club in Clarkson.
Yes, which I think that's probably where after soccer, that's probably where I met you.
That's probably where we got to know each other, honestly, because the thing is, with soccer being what it was as well, and like my family being in Yanchep, it was always much like, you have to like get there and then get out, because it was like 5 years back through Mordor to get back at that point. But the Clarkson Club, my mum used to take me down there, and an actually very dear friend of mine, Daniel, he taught me how to play there. And he was actually my very first customer I ever had through the Joondalup doors, which was a full circle moment. And I saw him and went, oh, you're mine now.
Yeah.
I was like, correct, it's all come together. But when I went there, I played a guy with me and my friend, we played, and a Defiler, a Chaos Defiler. Tough. Probably not 60 wounds, seeing as vehicles didn't have them.
Right.
And probably not a 2+ save.
Okay.
Oh, they had that like different the tank bits or whatever it was, wasn't it?
No. This was a made-up rule by a guy who was cheating. So yeah, this was slightly different. So, that was my first experience, and I was just like, this seems normal.
Yeah.
I have to save up for a Defiler. I went to Stu and my who I'm still very dear friends with now, and my friend John McLean, who worked in the Perth store at the time, very brief window when him and Stu worked together, which was magical. And I went there and I went, I need a Defiler because it's got this many wounds. And they went,
What?
I beg your pardon? And I was like, oh, I've got someone in trouble. But the Inquisition did not get them, sadly. But yes, I remember those sorts of games. And honestly, at the time, it was when anything went well, when you had your mate who turned up with a little bit of the cash hammer, or you played that guy who was clearly making stuff up and you won. For me, I was like, that's peak. I've peaked at life. Like, life cannot get better. I feel the victory here. It was so satisfying. It wasn't the games we play now anywhere near as good, but man, I had fond memories of those games.
It's funny you mentioned Dan, because that Clarkson Club was the first time outside of my group of two friends it was very imbalanced situation going on there. And again, it was as a small, not a smart child, I guess I was going to say, that giant book of rules was both way out of my price tag and way too big.
Old hammer, man. That was when the writers did not give a fuck about you figuring out the rules.
So
that was when, hey, we're going to write it. You learn it.
When you're a lower socioeconomic human being and you have the choice of getting another box of men, maybe, or a giant book, no fucking way was I picking that book. You know what I mean? All my books came from the secondhand store, and if it wasn't coming from there, it wasn't coming.
Back then, did the instruction manuals have like a little stat sheet?
No. What they had was a small note, which was, "We hope you don't enjoy building."
Yeah, I remember the people complain about the way that you put together models now being a bit too complicated. But back then it was really basic, almost like a piece of IKEA furniture thing, where it'd be one image and a bunch of arrows pointing to something, and you're like, is that the front
and
or the back?
And it was always photocopied with the least amount of ink possible. It was like they were rationing ink in Nottingham, and they were just sending it out.
But that Clarkson Club was the first time where I went there, and I realized, I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. And it's funny you mentioned Dan, because it was also my first experience at that club. Yeah. And they were playing, I can't remember the name, but it's, when the miniatures were like 32 mils, they were bigger, and it was like, they were all like individual models, but they were bigger.
Yes. Inquisitor.
They were playing Inquisitor, and I was like, ooh, something other than teenage girls exists. I was a teenager at the time, so it's okay. But I just remember the
Context.
there was just something in the
Don't
back
clip
of
that out of context, Matt.
oh shit. So there was just something in the back of my brain that lit up, and I was like, oh fuck, this might like your mum said, like this might have me for a bit here.
Yes, exactly. It was the best part as well. Was the same year I got that. My mum for Christmas got me a knockoff Iron Maiden Greatest Hits album, which had a front cover of a very illegal, illegally replicated Eddie on the front with like popcorn or something. So I discovered metal and Warhammer in the same year, and I was like, my personality.
It's so funny because I worked at Woolworths next to that Clarkson thing, or it was maybe Juicens at the time, and the manager there called Brian, who was a fucking legend, he made me a mixtape of our Saxon album, and same thing, and it was like it was the same kind of time period. You're like your little teenage brain is like whatever it's given right now, it's gonna be attached to this. You know what I mean?
Warhammer has always had its roots in metal. This has always been the case because
Bolt Thrower, of course, the original Games Workshop band,
the original, all the old Warhammer stuff, the art, and the creators were massive fans of metal inspired like stuff, and like the art was so inspired by the album art of that time.
It's also beautiful now. That's a really important point you've made because I love now seeing that influence work back through.
Yeah.
So now you're seeing metal bands come up, and you can.
They're inspired by
the
Warhammer.
references, the references are there, and it's fascinating going from like playing in that Clarkson club and no one knowing what a Warhammer was, right? Even in 6th edition coming around, no one outside of Warhammer knew what a Warhammer was when you would have been studying Kang, and so now it's like the wallpaper is Warhammer. It's a part of that pop culture now. It's so interesting because then you see imagery and you're like, oh, they're a Warhammer back. Oh no, they've just taken from it because of course it's just out there now. It's incredible.
The club, that old club as well, was the classic. Like all the terrain was homemade. There was a lot of foam stuff built out of things. Like people do the thing where you get the plumbing glue and you'd melt the foam down. There was a lot of like Milo tins and like buildings made out of like clearly like arts and craftsy kind of stuff.
You may do what you have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that point that was super normal. I could be wrong, but I don't remember there being any of the like pre-made Warhammer art.
No, there wasn't even in the stores. I actually saw when the Perth store, the Warhammer Perth store, hosted its 20th anniversary, maybe 15th. Stu put up a picture, and it had like the old tables in the background. And I was in one of the pictures, and I was looking at it. It was old polystyrene covered with like grey Bunnings paint. That was my first game I ever played on. I remember that as literally drawn from the artwork of Warhammer 1000. The Milo tins, I don't remember that club. Now you've mentioned it, of course. But in my head, that was the 41st Millennium. That was Cadia. That was the front line.
I don't know if your mum ever bought like a fridge or something, and then you get that square piece of foam on top.
Every time.
And like back when you were a kid, there was something that meant, like my son is 16. He's never been excited for a box of foam in his whole life. You know what I mean?
Ridiculous.
The iPads have ruined everything. But I remember...
Their dopamines are drained by the time they reach 18, huh?
My nan and my auntie got a fridge or a washing machine or something, and that piece of foam, and it's like it just lit up bullets of light in like imagination, things you could do with it. Like it was, you're like, oh, look at this ridge! It's like a parapet.
The best part, and because I remember as well, I was really lucky because my granddad was such a skilled and self-trained individual that he had been making polystyrene terrain art of different types for years. So when I saw that, he would go, okay, this is plaster of Paris. This is the equivalent of Mod Podge. This is this. And so, the best part of the box was that. And then after a while, you start to like, I look back and I remember going, actually, no, that was the most exciting part. And I still love that you can see things as a Warhammer person from that era.
The creative,
and you go, no, that is a dungeon room.
The biggest example of this was Danny the other day came in, as he does off the trucks into the boards, and he was carrying like a metal cylinder going, guys, look at this. Look what I found. Look what it is. And it was only because it resembled like one of those droid bodies from Star Wars.
The IG-88.
The IG-88, like these assassin droids.
So
but it's just a tube. It's just a metal cylinder, but I see the vision.
This one's for you, Matt, when you're editing. It's the IG-88 assassin droid from Star Wars. And what it is a section of a blast chamber out of a airplane.
You want to check it out at the
engine.
boards. So it's in the back left where the war games is.
So you need to do the big spinny bit where people accidentally walk into and get minced into nothing. Inside there, behind that, is a bunch of those. So those chambers rim all the way around in a circle, angling outwards, and that's why it's in the shape of a cone. And those things go on the inside, and that way, as the diesel flows through the engine, it sparks back into the blast chamber, and that's why it's the shape that it is. But what it really is fucking cool. cool to come across because one of the places that I go to regularly is they used a bunch of scrap metal, and for whatever reason they had a bunch of airplane engines, which is fucking cool as it is.
That is
and the minute I saw it from across the way,
it's like mine.
I ran, bro.
But we had our me and Danny, we didn't get a lot of chance to play Kobe now, but we versed each other in the Old World League.
We did.
You know, Sweet Dale's Old World League, that he also was on the podcast as well. Check it out.
Yeah.
We played our first game, 500 Points of Chaos versus Grand Cathay, myself. What was awesome was that we had, Kurgan here helping us with the rules. We also had Dale there. We had Graham. We had a whole gathering of friends just sitting around the table watching and just hanging out and
having
playing
a
the
laugh.
game. It was such an old
So
school Warhammer experience to have everyone just enjoying the moment. And of classic Warhammer fashion, rules would come up and 3 people would open their books searching for the answer to the rules.
The best part about it as well is obviously, and I massive shout out to Dale. He is my strongest soldier. He is not only someone, for our gentle listeners, who has painted 3,000 points of Skaven, which if anybody knows Warhammer, that is a massive achievement and they look great. But also he's written this for the boards and for our community as well, which I just think is amazing. And thank God him and Graham were there, because the amount of times I would be like, this is the rule. And I was technically correct, except for 2 sentences.
It was the rule sometimes last 25 years.
Correct, exactly. And as anybody has played me at the Northern Boards events will know, I'll be like, I remember this. That's from 2004, disregard. And so, having the lads there was great. And you are right. It was a classic Warhammer experience where even though you might not be playing at the table, you can still be involved. That's the magic. That's what I love about it. And it doesn't ruin the experience. It benefits. It accentuates it.
I didn't even know my own army's rules. I would have to be like, Graham, I rolled a 4. What does that mean?
I messaged because Connor and Dale Connor and Dale and Graham came down, and I'd messaged Connor and Graham, and I thought, you know what, this is special. So I finished work at about 12:30, and I know Dale actually works at the petrol station around the corner from us, and he does a lot of night shifts. So I went past just to see if I could catch him, and he was there, and I was like, Dale, please come down and hang out with us, because he's put such an immense amount of effort. I know I've done this, and you've done this.
Too.
We've all run leagues here. It's so much additional effort, again, behind the scenes, like we talked at the start. So it was awesome to have him involved, as part of that. Because the community building, again, is the whole part of it, right? And a huge shout out to him as also for giving Kang and I round 1. I don't know if it was intentional, but it really helped that we didn't have to play someone else who knew the rules. Because I have zero cares about winning. And I don't know if that's a good strategy when going to the games. I just really want to see my converted plastic grey man move around on the field. That's all I care about, right? But I do have one additional point that I need to care about. Am I so bad that I'm potentially wasting the other person's time? So
your wizard blasted 5 or 8 guys out of existence.
He had a couple of duds at first. Shook his hand and then went again, and all of a sudden everyone's on fire.
Mid-game, when I went out on the phone to liquor license, I can only assume he was back there doing some stretches and some warm-ups, because he needed to sort his shit out. He was getting replaced.
But he got his liquor license to increase the amount of fire going on. That's what he did. He was amazing.
But yeah, it's like playing any of these games, I'm happy just to do it. But going and knowing literally zero rules, which I appreciate you for that as well, Mike, is the if that was someone else, I really would have to do a lot more homework, because that was pathetic on my behalf.
No. So this is the thing. I feel it 100% because I have it every now and again. I get to play Horus Heresy, which is, besides Middle Earth, Strategy Mode game is my favorite game at the moment. I adore it, adore everything about it. And when I play the game, I don't get to play very often, so I have to relearn everything, because it's not essential information game.
Yeah.
Taxes and money and adult decisions are, but I love it. Every time I get to the table, I have that guilt.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I really worry I'm going to give this person a bad time. So having people around to be like, don't forget the one thing you do, amazing.
We're all going to go through this, right? Especially as who we are, but we represent our community. It's not like we're stars of the community. We're just part of the community. We represent who we are and what we do. You can't win too much, because that's douchey. And it's like, if you win too much, that starts to look bad. And that's why I tend to play Commander Lofted with my friends. And I never want to segregate myself away from the community. But if I want to play harder, I can't do that in a regular group, because it just looks like I'm trying way too hard. But then on the other half, you're also expected to kind of know what's going on. So there's a very fine line that you've got to find a margin in, where you're like, I'm doing well, but not well enough to piss you off.
That's exactly it. Because when I play with my friends as well, I will get something through and I'll fail a dice roll. And if I'm not around other people, I can insult them in a way that is pouring to their soul. But I'm not going to stand there in the boards and then reveal their personal trauma to everyone as a way to get at them for me being salty. But
this podcast knows very well that I have a friend called Tom that I abuse on the regular, mostly on this podcast as well. And if you were to come across our table while playing Magic, you would think that I hate Tom's guts. But I love Tom. He's a great man. Tom's dad came into this restaurant thinking I was Tom. So
I do remember coming over to a game, and all I did was I was going to make my favorite joke to you, Danny, which is, have you paid for table hire? And then I got to the table and you just looked at me and went, hey, man, Tom's stopping my graveyard. And then everyone at the table is just sort of in the hostage situation. And you're like, it's great. I was like, okay.
That's
go back
Commander.
to the counter. And,
I'll just let you know. So just in perpetuity, I have paid for table hire in both my soul and my interracial proficiency. So.
Very good. Very good.
Now, Kurgan, you join us at a very interesting point of time, right? Because we have the new era. It's 11th edition Warhammer 40k. It's just about to kick off, right? And we have a ton of stuff planned for Northern Boards. 11th edition, anytime a new 40k edition comes in. Big deal.
It's also pretty funny because at the inception of the boards, it was
edition, right?
Yeah, we started with Indomitus. It was almost the first
2019, 2020, right?
Yeah, it was it was almost one of the first things that we did.
Because Northern Boards was end of 2019. Kicked the full gear into 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was Indomitus the first thing we did when we moved into the new space.
It was pretty much it was how like myself, right, as a customer, kind of like got into Northern Boards and started becoming regular. Was Indomitus.
Because I remember that first bill where they were like, this is what's going to be. And I was like, ooh, shit. And it's like, I remember, because I assume if it was just, because it started with just me and I was working full time and then just coming in at nighttime. And like some of the very first regulars I had totally accepted that I would come in, turn the lights on, open the doors, and then instantly fall asleep on the desk. And then at the end of the night, they would just kind of nudge me and be like, oh, we're finished
That's
now.
The,
and I would
the
leave.
early X-Wing Legion and a crew.
All the exit, like there's very few of the
like Hayden, Mark Chang, Colm.
Greg, like all those lads, they were very accommodating for my horrific schedule. And so I'd come in those nights, we stopped, and then we picked up Jackson, and then Ellen came along, and it was like, is in that early remnants of like, all right, I'm starting this with effectively nothing, and how can we make it work? And there was like at the time I was also theoretically supposed to have a family and a house and a mortgage and stuff, right? And I was like, well, how do I pay this $3,500 bill to Games Workshop without potential other people in my life knowing anything about this whatsoever? Because when I'm telling them, I'm like, it's just a tiny thing that costs, it's not that big a deal, you know what I mean? She sees me and my brother making, all the boards are like the tabletops were made by my brother in our garage and stuff, right? And so she sees that bit, and in her mind, it's not anything adjacent that was different to the foam things we made, you know what I mean?
Of course.
She didn't need to know that we're buying real terrain or gear or anything like that. Anyway, I remember getting that bill and I was like, fuck, we'd better really sell these quick.
Fortunately, 9th edition smashed it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, it did.
Indomitus,
everything on fire. Like it was like Games Workshop stocks to the moon. Right afterwards as well as COVID, so everyone was buying hobby. The Indomitus was incredible. It felt like there was what happened was 9th edition really was Games Workshop being like, hey, we're going to kick off a new era of Warhammer. We're going to try to bring in Warhammer to a larger masses of people, make it more accessible, and change up branding. Because the new logo came out as well. Like Warhammer went to a new revision.
And you're actually really bang on there about the branding. Because I remember being a staff member at the time and seeing someone explain. Sorry, I saw that the video for Indomitus with the Sisters of Battle and the Space Marines and the Necrons reached the top 10 on YouTube.
Oh shit!
But I didn't grow up on YouTube because I didn't have the internet till I was like 15.
Yeah,
so I don't know or have any sort of veneration for what top 10 means and what consistently being viewed that much means. I just didn't register. It was actually a friend of mine who explained to me, who has nothing to do with Warhammer. That's actually really interesting. I now know what a Warhammer is.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time because I've seen that. And that video was really special, and you're absolutely bang on. Because that graphic, that video, I had so many people coming in being like,
what is Warhammer?
What is Warhammer? Yeah. But there's a sense of, we were talking about it before, where your little teenage mind discovers metal and Warhammer in the same year, right? And our minds exploded and never gone back together. They had that, where they're like, this is different. This is different. And it's not, I'm not comparing it to the same thing, but I distinctly remember my life before watching Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then after watching Star Wars.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, no, this is part of me now.
Yeah.
This is a lot to me. This means a lot. And then this same thing happened with that. And then the box set being that Necron army.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. Like one of the best collections I ever did. It was amazing.
The 9th edition was them, I don't know if the internal inside of Game Workshop was like, 9th edition felt like it was a big revision of, hey, we got to approach Warhammer differently. After 9th edition, Warhammer hit the public conscience so hard and so quickly, and Games Workshop really capitalized on that. Right towards the end of the 9th edition, going into 10th edition. 9th edition was them setting it all up. 10th Ed wasn't executing it. 10th edition was, hey, we're going to try and bring as many people as we can into Warhammer 40k as we possibly can. The edition was made a lot more accessible. We had in the multimedia as well now, like we have way more Warhammer animation there's ever been in the past.
Yeah.
We have Warhammer video games of high quality. In the past, the only good Warhammer video game you kind of had was like Dawn of War. Good luck, bro. Everything else
How
was
dare
mid.
you? The Mark of Chaos, Warhammer Fantasy game trailer. And we're not going to talk about the
Exactly.
game. The trailer, however.
And then Games Workshop really was like, boom, 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 capitalize on this franchise, bring so many more people in. And now that you're really spoiled for choice when it comes to Warhammer, you have your choice of game. There's so many more games to choose from. And now we're finally there. We're finally at that 11th edition. They're going to build off of the backs of what 10th edition has created for them.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming to 11th Ed. We're recording this actually right as a couple days before 11th Ed goes public for pre-order.
Yes, absolutely. It's this Saturday. It's from 10 a.m. And I'm very excited because it's the first time in a while I've been able to have people come in, get excited for the pre-order, and then obviously we're following it up on the 20th on the release day with the build party.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a store. Well, one half of our store is going to be full of hobbyists who are building and painting and, you know, getting into the new edition. I'm able to help with that. And obviously, thanks to you guys working with me, we were able to bring in so many hobby tools and like old school things like sculpting tools and green stuff. So we've got that ready to go for the day. I'm really excited to be able to teach people making their starter sets personalized again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really looking forward to. And then the other half of the store is going to be packed as well because we've got Marvel out on the same day. So it's definitely all worked out together. It's going to be slightly busy. But no, the 11th edition is exciting as well because what I like about it is that they've made a definitive narrative and competitive deck of cards. So they're treating both of them in the same way.
Yep.
And as a narrative person, I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, so like your missions and stuff like that. There's two?
So there's a narrative deck, and then there is also, so you can play a pick up and play game, but with a narrative bent.
Yeah.
And that's been the thing, is that the 9th edition had the perfect blend of narrative and competitive. And obviously each edition they do has to have a different angle. And as you said, Kang, absolutely bang on. Space Marine 2 coming along, 10th edition being so accessible was vital, because you cannot get people who are inexperienced with games into a game that was as complicated as 9th edition was if you hadn't started from the beginning of 9th.
Yeah,
so that was
yeah,
fantastic. But then this is now built on that. So they've got that right. Now they need to do the next part. And I love the narrative deck. That, as soon as I saw that, that's really cool. And the chapter approved stuff as well.
They're pushing the
Drawing
narrative
systems.
again as well, leading into 11th edition release as well on Warhammer Community. They're doing a kind of meta narrative like lead in. They want, hey, when 11th edition comes out, everyone vote how did your games go on this one page, and we're going to determine the outcome in lore of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
it's
cool.
Deathmire. So actually,
Deathmire, was it?
Yeah, Deathmire.
Yes,
So Siege of
yes.
Deathmire. So it's basically a global campaign, and we've got our. I'm going to claim this. I am that good that I managed to fit in a combat learn to play day for new people and people who just want to meet new friends to play against, and like families and kids. It's on Saturday, the 11th, right in the middle of school holidays, 11th of July. I managed to pin that 2 days before that ends.
Beautiful.
So if you want to come in and play Combat Patrol, please
get the
do,
last
and
minute
like
votes
make
in.
the Siege of Death fight, because everything we're doing is Armageddon themed. This whole like next 3 months,
Yeah.
we've got our painting competition, the Will of Iron at the end of August.
That's why there's such a mess in the store all the time. I get it.
That is exactly it. That's it. Just keep going with that, Dennis.
It's just like Armageddon, huh?
But yeah, like it's really exciting. It's lovely to have like such a narrative focus, and then also they've been really good at like on Warcom communicating for those people who are invested in the competitive aspect of it. That this is what you've got. This is what you have to look forward to. This is what you need to think about. It's just they've done both, and it is fantastic to see it. It's really, really
I think it's so important to have that narrative back into Warhammer 40k. 10th edition did its job. It needed to lower the baseline entry
Yes,
to
it did.
Warhammer 40k,
Absolutely.
and what's what it did. And then obviously, as we get towards the end of the 10th edition, a lot of franchise players complain that there isn't enough for them to really stick them in, because they want to, you want something to bite your teeth into. You want the depth of rules. 11th edition is then bringing some of that back. We've seen War Gear now is coming back in. You can start paying for points, and there's a little bit of granularity in your custom deck building and customizing.
I love that, yeah.
And the big one is narrative, because long-term players, we love to learn about the lore. So much of Warhammer is the stories that it tells, and for people, they want about be able to take that narrative and put it on the tabletop. So having that back is so rewarding. I play Blood Angels not because I love the color red, not because of, the gameplay. I play Blood Angels because I love the story of Sanguinius. I love the story of the Blood Angels and the sacrifices they make. That is what it is. People love Salamanders, not necessarily because green is the most exciting color, but because Salamanders are the good guys of the Space Marines. Vulcan stories and how much more they represent for the people of the Imperium. I play Imperial Guard as well because I love boots on the ground. It's the stories of the individual characters. Commissar Yarrick, what he means to Armageddon was exciting, not because he's a cool mini, but because it's Commissar Yarrick. Everyone knows the story behind Commissar Yarrick. So in 10th edition, they really kicked the hornet's nest when they were like, hey, by the way, Yarek's dead, haha. You know, he got an excerpt in the codex. People were understandably upset. Maybe people at Games Workshop were like, hey, why are these people so upset about this one character? No, people were upset because he meant something. Him being back now at the dawning of 11th Ed is strategic. They know that bringing them back brings people back into the story. Oh my God, he's back.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's exactly that. It's also that thing as well where like we have to remember sometimes, and again, I didn't have any insider information even as a staff member, but it's something I've observed as a long-time customer of Games Workshop and a big fan of Warhammer in general, is our timeline is our armies and our chosen games involvement. So for me, like realistically, I'm like, why is there not more Heresy releases? There's so many Heresy releases. It's just I'm involved in Heresy. So in my little world, it's that. And I think for us, the timeline is linked to the edition. You want those stories to begin and start and end in the edition. Same as like with the end of 9th edition where they did the Angron comes back and the Lion comes back.
Big
and
old
it's like,
Primarchs.
where's that story? And I have said that and echoed that sentiment myself, but it's sometimes hard because then I have to remember that story is connected to a miniature, which is sculpted by the best artist in the world, which takes years to come out. And so their timeline is always, it is the 41st millennium and it's about to strike midnight. It's never going to end. For me, I'm like, but like, I want to know like now. It's hard to disconnect sometimes. But you're right, because the thing is, I don't even think they have the question of, are people going to mind that he's dead? I think they're like,
They were just gone.
Because they know when he comes back, it's I've used this analogy before. It's the same as WWE, it's the same as wrestling. Is you're like, oh man, where'd that story go? And all of a sudden the lights go down, you know, your favorite wrestler,
the encore,
favorite wrestler, the encore, and they come on with their music, and you're like, everyone all of a sudden forgets the 4-year, 5-year hiatus. We're back in.
So you're telling me that I will get Old World back, and they're going to pretend like nothing ever happened, right?
Daddy, I believe you actually got Old World back.
No, I got pre-World back.
No. See, I prefer this version because the dwarves aren't all dead yet, so I'm particularly much more invested. But yes, no, it's one of those things I think as well with the 11th edition. You mentioned it. It's like the narrative coming back. As someone who does love specialist games and does seek the narrative, looking at this rule, what's really cool is the whole new idea of like my army versus your army actually determines how the game will go. So it feels now that we're both turning up to the table with our factions.
We just don't happen to have the
same
same objective for some arbitrary reason.
Yes, which is perfect. I'm like, it's exciting to have 40k on the forefront of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's really
They're pushing the story and narrative forward again, which is always exciting. 9th edition was them, hey, by the way, the story's moving again. Gilliman and the Emperor talk, yada, yada, yada. And then suddenly all the Primax are coming back. This is them reinforcing. We're pushing the story forward. We want to make this narrative is ever going, so that when players jump on, they want to know what's next. Like I want to know what's happening next. Like the Nihilist sector with a Dante watching over it, that's shrouded away from the Emperor's light. What's going on? I want to know.
I don't need to like basic bitch about this podcast, but would you guys have a guess on which Primax coming next?
I have a guess.
I am hard in on it. I think it's the next Loyalist Primarch will probably be Lehman Russ. Or Dawn. I would prefer Lehman Russ because I find Lehman Russ to be a more interesting character than Dawn, personally. I would love, my personal pick would be Vulcan. I wish it would be Vulcan. But Lehman Russ seems the most logical, right? He
Based
is very
on why is that?
He's the most very marketable. Space Wolves have a generally fairly old lineup. They have a very diverse lineup. And they're very, for Games Workshop, they're another distinct Space Marine faction that could just get a lot of like, a ton of people love Space Marines, and bringing back Lehman Russ is...
They are also exactly that. Arguably, for anybody who's familiar with Marvel Comics history, every time a Marvel comic necessarily needed a boost, Wolverine happens to turn up. Can't believe how he got there. Unbelievable. And it happened every time. Russ fits that. Also, scientifically, Space Wolves are...
He's the big rugged, like, like independent, I do my own thing type character. And he'll shake up the formula of...
It's like a fan favorite.
Exactly, he's a fan favorite. And he'll shake up the formula of Loyalist Primarchs. We have Gilliman and Lionel Johnson, who are both kind of more measured characters. Having Russ in really shakes the formula up.
They're daddy's good boys.
Exactly.
It's also interesting as well, because like the formula is an interesting part, because I agree. I think it will be Russ. I don't want it to be Russ at all. I don't actually want any other Loyalists back. I think the story of having Gilliman with his back against the wall, with them all back, actually is really important, because I think narratively, I would prefer that, because then new audiences who maybe have grown up on Warhammer memes of the Ultramarines being vanilla and this or so. When you read The Heresy and you read Dan Abnett's No Fear, I fell in love with Gilliman in that book. because you realize just how special he is.
Yeah.
And Dan has then, with the other writers as well, David Annandale did a good job of it. They've really made him, and especially Guy Haley in the Dawn of Fire series. It's not Dawn of Fire series. Sorry, it's the first 3 books where he came back, and Plague War and all those fantastic books. So in that trilogy, basically, you realize Gilliman is incredible, but it's better to understand him against impossible odds and see him still win anyway. It's a Superman thing. It's not about him losing, it's about the Imperium losing. Like, we know he'll be fine, but the threat is, oh no, if they're all back, can Gilliman even do this? But they will bring Russ back because of exactly the reasons you mentioned.
But what they will do right now, I think, what most logically will happen is they're doubling down on the presence of Chaos. Chaos are winning. So we're going to get Peter Rabo back first. We've seen him in ARM promotions. We know that Iron Warriors are getting update. And then having a 5th Chaos Primarch into the fray, because realistically the Chaos Primarchs can't, they don't die. They exist in the warp, right? They can always come back. They're always the ever looming threat. That's why the Imperium is losing, because Chaos have stronger numbers. They have the more powerful characters. Peter Rabo coming back, getting an incredible mini. Iron Warriors, there's a ton of Chaos players who are massive fans of Iron Warriors. Very distinct visual look to him. Him coming back really doubles down on, man, the Imperium are in trouble.
Exactly, and it should have that. It should have that impact of, you should, as a long-time Warhammer fan who knows that nothing's ever going to change, should question and be like, I don't.
How do we beat this? Do we win? This is
because you see the art of Peter Rabo. He's enormous. Like, I've got my Northern Boards screensaver. He is literally like towering above the battlefield, almost above half the planet. But the thing is with the Primarchs as well, it's always an interesting one, because part of me hopes that either, if none more of them come back, I would love Vulcan because it makes sense. But I would actually love Jagatai. My hope is Jagatai. I would adore that. I think Chris Wright did an amazing job in the Black Library novels of making him amazing, and White Scars in general. Like, they're fascinating. They're so cool. So him coming back is really cool. But you said one thing, Kang, that always brings me back to Russ coming back, which is, you mentioned how he shakes all the formula. It's not just about the evil bad guys. It's because Russ did exactly that. He was like, it's great that you have a suggestion. However, I've already left and I'm already doing what I want. And the Lion will not enjoy that, and Gilliman will enjoy that. But also, when Gilliman and the Lion finally meet, and then they have their dynamic, I'd love that to be explored before Russ comes back. I want to see that, because realistically, being objective, know that the Lion and the Dark Angels are the worst. Awful. But then the Son of the Forest book made me really like the character development of the Lion. And now he's the old knight, and he's made his mistakes, he's made his errors, but he knows his successes, he knows his worth. So I kind of really want to see that dynamic explored with him and Gilliman, and then
because he's wizened now. That's a big one, right?
Yes.
He's a lot older.
It's genuinely, even though I'm like, oh, no more Primarchs, when they write stuff like that, I'm like, no, see, if you keep that line going, I'll be in.
Because the soul, realistically, the soul of Warhammer has always been, Warhammer 40k, has always been around the narrative of the Primarchs, right? The origin of Warhammer 40k is in the Horus Heresy, and that's always been a drama between the Emperor and his children, effectively. That's been the driving force forward for Warhammer 40k forever. So now for Warhammer 40k, having the narrative once again revolve around the Primarchs, that is kind of what people want. Is the relatable. People have their favorite Primarchs because these individual characters are more relatable to the story than, a million people die in a battle. That is what it always is.
I think it's funny because you have this is we're in the narrative section of talking about how they come about and whether they get written back into the story and how often that happens. But there's got to be a money side of it where this is a multi-million, if not billion-dollar company that every time they print a piece of plastic, like nerds jizz themselves and like dollars get shoved, right?
When Angron's mini got revealed, there was a collective from all the Chaos players. Incredible mini.
What I like is that somewhere, probably in England or in America, wherever these kind of meetings happen, there's a board meeting with a bunch of investors. If you have enough shares in any company, you're allowed to go to investor meetings and determine, vote on how you want things to arrive. I really like the idea of a bunch of really old white dudes in this board meeting deciding which one of the Primax is going to come back and when that's going to happen. Because as a company, they have shareholders and they have to, if you make profit this year, you theoretically have to make this amount of profit or more next year. So it's like if they put out a when the Lion comes back, all these people that don't have any reference to the game whatsoever are like, I don't know what you guys did, but you need to do that again.
Sword and Shield guy's sick. And they know that if they do big, not monstrous, but big, burly Viking guy, give him a really cool diorama base and scene it, pose it. Russ is such an iconic looking Primarch. that mini will sell.
So like, does Games Workshop as a company, do they meter out when they release them things based on it? Is this a business decision or is this
people
a story
liking,
decision?
People liking the Primarch and the big headliner mini is introducing people to the Space Marines and introducing the entire Space Wolves lineup.
Yeah.
Someone's not just going to buy Russ. They will buy Russ and buy the Wolf and buy the rest of the Thunder Wolf cavalry, buy the rest of the army. And that's a new customer, new armor, new payment line.
It's a really good point you've made there, because when Gilliman came out,
say that on my
being in the...
People started playing Ultramarines again.
People played Ultramarines, but more importantly, they painted Gilliman and they were so excited about having a Primarch that they then collected a completely unrelated chapter. And I used to have in the store, when we were sort of teaching people, we would have people come in with Gilliman and Blood Angels, Gilliman and Dark Angels, because it was very much the son of the Emperor's return. Exactly what I was saying before. It's a story of that. From a business perspective as well, again, we like people still sometimes ask me, be like, oh, but you knew that Armageddon was coming out. They told you. I was like, we knew less than nothing because they knew they couldn't trust us, because we'd be like, I'm really excited for the big box.
Yeah.
And we'd tell someone, right? So they looked after us by not letting us know anything. But it's interesting because the way I would always think about it is like, the Primarchs and novels themselves, the Primarch novels themselves, and like the Horus Heresy novels and the 40k novels, when they are accompanying a Primarch, you see everything in Warhammer go off. Mm-hmm. Because a Primarch is, for a converter, a bit stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It starts a whole
new I had a lovely guy, Taylor, who was coming into the Joondalup store for a long time, and he actually picked up a Saturnine Praetor from Heresy and Gilliman and took the Saturnine's massive hammer and Gilliman's sword and converted a Saturnine Praetor with the Emperor's sword standing, it looks like standing in a hallway guarding Terror itself. So cool. Yeah, so you've got the converters who see it, then you've got the painters who go, that's the demon entry for the year. That sword of like Gilliman's Burning Sword is one of the best things I've ever taught people, because it gave me the palette and the canvas to teach them so many vital skills for a higher standard of painting on something big and easy to paint and easy to access, right? And so then you've got the gamers, of course, who are sitting there being like, reroll ones, they're losing their minds, and then all the way through to the lore kids like myself and everything else. And so the Primarchs, there's not a part of the hobby they don't hit, and to show that, you look at Total War, right? Total War Warhammer is probably the reason so many people are into Old World that weren't around like us. Absolutely, before things changed, right? But now you've got Total War Warhammer 40,000.
That 11th edition launch with Dawn of War 4 and Total War Warhammer. Dude, I'm so excited. And there's going to be crazy amounts of people playing it.
You think about Dawn of War 4, who's in it? Well, it's a lion. All of a sudden, all those people who aren't old like me, sorry to say, Danny, you as well, who went around for the glory of Dawn of War, are now going, the Primarch's in it, I'm in. Yep. And they are powerhouses for that. And you're right about the fact that because it is that story, it's classic, it's the best of Shakespeare and Greek theatre. They are such iconic characters in and of themselves, and Games Workshop have made that story so engaging that you kind of wear your Primarch on your sleeve a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when another one comes out, you're like, yeah, that might be the bad guy, but I need to get the models to, like I've got a friend of mine.
Lorgar players are like Lorgar. If you're a fan of Lorgar, they embody it. They know what they're doing.
Yes, indeed. I will say nothing further on Lorgar.
No shade.
No shade at all. No, I have friends who are dedicated to Lorgar too much. I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, no, exactly that. So I think, as a business thing, it's he'll pop up. Yeah. Whoever it is will come back, and then it will be tied into something else. And it is always very much, I think, something to remember, though, is the only thing I do know, and this is just talking to people, is that it is also down to what have they done in that miniature studio. Because, and this is not insider information, this is on everything. It's all about making the best miniatures in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you look at those Primarch models, the only thing I do know is that they will only follow through when someone has produced magic.
Yeah. It's going to be an incredible mini with an incredible paint job. Yep. It will, it's hedging its bet on that. That is what's going to be.
So someone sculpts the best Korax you've ever seen as a test, and they go, that's it. All of a sudden, for no reason at all, Korax that have come out of nowhere, and he'll be back. So it's that as well.
From your experience, I can't say for sure, but you'll speak more enlightenedly on it as well. How many times do you have a customer will walk in and they're not too sure what Warhammer army they want to start, or people just in general, they're not sure which Warhammer army to pick, and they pick solely based on the big headliner mini, the Primarch themselves. I had a customer come through the other day and they were hesitating on, hey, should I start a Death Guard army or should I start a Thousand Suns army? And I asked them, and they, I explained the gameplay style of the armies as well, and they weren't too sure either.
Or pyramids.
Well, here's the thing, right? I went strictly off of, well, if you know, you can't decide on vibes and you can't decide on gameplay. Between Mortarion and Magnus, which mini do you think is the coolest? And he went, Mortarion. And I was like, there you go. There you go.
Yes.
You play Death Guard because you love Mortarion's miniature. That's 100%. How it goes.
Spot on. And it's that already happens, in credit to your point about Russ, already happens with Logan Grimnar.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of people that pick him up and they're just like, wait,
holy
there's
shit.
Viking, werewolf, Space Marines, and then pulling off the rest of the Space Wolves off the shelf every time.
Yeah.
And it is so engaging. The same as like Black Templars with Grimaldus as well. There was a period in the store, Joondalup store, where I had him on the shelf for a while. It was so cool because people would see him and all of a sudden their eyes light up.
Yeah.
And the aesthetic is there.
Very
and
cool mini.
It's exactly that. They've launched the Primarch with your aesthetic. Everything ties into him. The most simple miniature in your army will have a part of that Primarch in them. That's the narrative flow and that's the design flow. And so as soon as somebody locks in, it's exactly that. They're like, no, that's the one. So effective. But not so effective when it's Magnus. That's not true. It's actually, I just hate Magnus. But yes.
But yeah, the air around all the boards has been incredible leading into 11th. Everything has kind of stood still. It's on a bit of standby. Everyone's waiting to see the announcements, and the big old edition finally comes out and people can finally dive in and play. As Kurgan explained, we have a ton of events lined up for that one. Really excited. And once 11th edition is here, we're finally there. It's just going to be, it feels like the start of a new era of Northern Boards, right? Northern Boards, we have you at the helm, all the new events, the big focus on the 11th edition, all that new exciting things. Myself as well, I'm taking a step back as well onto the next kind of era of Northern Boards. As Northern Boards has grown, we find ourselves in a position where inevitably we want to kind of carve into the digital sphere. We have to kind of make our presence known online. We're constantly here, making the podcast as well is part of our carving ourselves into that digital sphere, getting our presence out there in the internet. But we're going to do that a little bit more as well. We're going to kind of capitalize on that marketing we've kind of made and paved roads for. We've started a website called Northern Boards Collect. MB Collect is going to be the next step for Northern Boards, where we're going to push and start selling TCG singles, hopefully more merch, as well as all sorts of card game things on a digital front. And effectively what it is that no matter what Northern Boards will always have a physical location, but the physical location is bound by the limitations of it's a store. It's you walk in and you have to in person. But the internet gives us so many avenues of we can send out product to people on the other side of Australia, to across the world, and especially as card games are booming now, it also means that we can do so much more with card games and provide singles that our binders that were limited to the fact that our binders where they go through it now. Anyone across Australia can now shop and buy cards from us, and really gives Northern Boards a whole new leg, a whole new step for us to push forward. And then people have come through to Northern Boards and been, where did the binders go? But logistically, as we were expanding out and we're having so much more card games, we have so much more card games, so much more cards in our singles. Logistically, we had to put it somewhere, and we finally, made the decision.
I don't know about you, Mike, but I came in one day and I looked at Kang's eyes, and as the color drained from them and the soul slowly evaporated through to the ceiling, I thought, this is a man who's done with human beings.
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing for me is that, it's that constant thing of just like, I go in and I see you in the back room. And the other day it actually happened. I went in and Kang was taking a slight rest. Yeah. And when he rose up, it was almost like watching, the Marvel film where the character's been beaten to a pulp and he's just like, I've got him on the ropes. That was you. You're like, I've got these cards on the ropes. I stood up and I was like, I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to interrupt this man's process. But no, you've done an incredible amount of work, Kang, and I really can't stress enough. Again, not blowing smoke. I have been in the store even for this brief period. I haven't seen the behind-the-scenes stuff, the amount of work it takes to set up a website. I'm terrified of pressing any button on a computer. Every time Danny and I try to set up anything for Northern Boards, we have to reset 5 passwords and use 4 phone calls.
I built our actual website, and I couldn't fucking tell you a single thing of how to Every time Michael asks me literally any task, I've been doing it for 5 years, and I try to explain it, and it's very clear that I am doing it, but I have no idea what I'm doing.
It's unconscious competence, right? It's that part. But no, genuinely, Kang, the amount of work you've done is amazing, and what's lovely is having people already like come in and ask me, are there cards in? And there's a whole box full of orders fulfilled. Like the fact that you've done it and now it's already smashing through, man. Yeah. It's awesome.
And it's so exciting. Like being there, like we have this website now to sell Magic the Gathering cards. If you want to check out Magic the Gathering cards, check out MB Collect. You don't have to flip through binders anymore. You can just look up the card, it pulls up the card, boom, out of the cart, pick it up at the boards before Thursday night on the Commander. You're ready to go, bang. We used to only do Magic the Gathering cards, but now through the digital front, we can start stocking Riftbound. We can really support the Riftbound community. A bunch of people, like we had a fellow by the name of Julian, who's just started playing Riftbound. He's put out a bunch of orders now because he can build that deck he's wanted to play, and now he's playing on a Wednesday night, playing Nexus Nights and all the boards. We want to push out to Pokemon's been a big one. For the last, I would say, probably 12 months, like 12 months-ish last year, we've been just really kind of getting in Pokemon stock. We're finally there more consistently stocking Pokemon, sealed product, buying in Pokemon cards as well. Though we would love a situation where you can buy that really cool Charizard through Northern Boards Collect, and maybe eventually we deal with some sealed and like graded products. That's kind of really exciting stuff. We'd love to have it there as well. And it's, of course, we have to pay our tributes. We have to credit where credit's due as well. William from Eternal Magic has been a massive contributor and help to us getting all this right. So massive shout out to Eternal Magic. If it wasn't for Eternal Magic, I don't know if MB Collect would ever see, it would have seen the light of day. So it's, definitely, where credit's due as well, we're kind of following the footsteps of William. Eternal Magic has been an incredible thing for Northern Boards too. It's given an avenue for Northern Boards to support One Piece singles. Right? Eternal Magic is, so much of it is Magic Gathering, so much of it is One Piece, and they do so much of that. And One Piece has been such an incredible card game, and that William has boomed Eternal Magic off One Piece so much. And then we're really kind of following his footsteps. We're doing our Magic thing. We're doing our Riftbound thing. We're doing a little Pokemon thing. And we're sharing the market. I heard a lot of people come up and they ask me, hey, isn't Northern Boards Collect direct competition to Eternal Magic? But not necessarily, right? Because we want to provide a service that is something for the greater community where people can shop around and can find the cards they want. A card that William might not have, we can do. And we don't have One Piece at the moment. He has One Piece. He might not do as much Riftbound. We do some more Riftbound, and we can share that out as well. Because William is also a dear friend of the boards, so we want to foster that as much as possible. And I imagine when we get back,
in every regard, we're all West Australian owned small businesses, and it's like if we can support each other, get along that way for sure. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's like, I think with the stock and availability of any of these card games means that there's always going to be a restricted amount of product available to no matter what it is. So if we can keep our loyal customers within our loyal circle, that's even better.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's the classic small business thing of, we're shaking our fist and we point and cuss at the big conglomerates, like Good Games. They have so many more cards than us, and we're like, boo. EB Games now selling singles as well. But EB Games, boo.
I think the biggest thing as well with that is like, and look, I've known William since he was a customer in Joondalup for years, and I've still got one of his Blood Angels actually that he airbrushed to bring into Northern Boards to display. But the thing I was going to say was, like, I was in there on a Commander night and watching William. It was very funny to me because I have a friend of mine and I have the same relationship with him where he's just like, why are you doing that? No. Why are you doing that with and he was actually helping Kang with the postal sort of challenges and the hurdles of like the logistics on that. And he was actually dropping off Eternal Magic orders and then being like, hey man, I need you to stop making that decision, do this instead, and like telling you that stuff. And it was like it was like an hour and a half I was there because I was flitting between tables and checking on our hobby community that pops in for some social hobby on Thursdays as well. I come back from showing somebody how to paint something and William's still there, still going through the logistics of that. Yeah. That's more than just like we won't compete.
He's an asshole, so he doesn't listen to this podcast, but so I can say whatever I want.
Well, I don't have to say
listen back to his own podcast.
His willingness to share his knowledge with us is eternally grateful because to me it really is about a community thing, and I just want to work with good people. Like I have never and will never hire a single person that I don't like. And whether that's a good metric for hiring someone or not is yet to be determined. But it's like I just want to work with good people. And there's something I really appreciate about William's directness because my tiny little pea brain can only receptacle so much information. And when it gets filled up with too many extra words, I do say this to Nem a lot because he likes to use a lot of big words he doesn't really know what the meanings of. And
facetious.
I just really I need the point. And there's something about William's like directiveness where he's just like, no, idiot, stop doing that. And I'm like, well, I can get that. When I get bullied, I understand.
The older you get, You know, the more mature, you know, the more of an adult you become, you have to make big adult decisions in your life. It's better to have the people that will just tell you things straight.
Yeah.
It's so much nicer. It's just tell me how it is.
I'm emotionally stable enough to be insulted to my face and take it perfectly fine.
It's 100% that. And now, obviously, we got all the cold brews that are stored in all the boards are made by our friend Richard, and he often stands there and says the exact same sort of things to me. Mostly about money because he's kind of my financial manager now, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty simple. And yes, cutting to the point is an invaluable friend.
Yeah.
If they can do that for you, it's very special.
And I think it's honestly a testament to friendship as well. It's when you can cut through all of it. And it's like when you play games. When you play games with someone you truly enjoy, you know, a good friend of yours, you will just pour salt on them, they'll pour salt on you, and that's fine. You know, the banter is all part of it. And also in life as well, good friends will just kind of be blunt and be truthful with each other. Sometimes it's okay for you to tell me, hey, that shirt looks terrible on you. You don't have to be polite. That is how it works. So
very much.
And so much so of the Northern boards as well. It's just like you mentioned, having Kurgan on is so much more than just having someone else join the boards. It's like having a friend on.
No,
it's funny. Like we've got the website coming up. I've got Kang doing that, and then we've got Northern Boards with the new manager of Kurgan, and then we've got Kurt down at the. I think it's really like a triad of Ks. It's really
3Ks even.
Wait,
as an acronym.
What? Hold on.
Very marketable.
I didn't sign up for this. What's going on? No, what's actually really cool. Yeah, you mentioned coming full circle earlier, but it's almost like. It is full circle, and especially with Danny, you and I have known each other so long, and like working together now is so exciting. And Kang, obviously, I've been a customer of yours for a while, and you've been a customer of mine previously. But also, I've always admired the sort of the strength of character and the soul that you put into boards when I was going in there in the evenings.
Absolutely,
and that is credit to both of you and to yourself as well, Kang, for creating what's there. What's really nice now is it feels like you guys built this little. Almost like lightning generator. You know how people talk about how lightning strikes from the sky, lightning from a clear sky, that sort of stuff. It's like you kind of went, well, there isn't any there, so we're going to make it. And now it's made, it's kind of then growing and growing and growing to the point where like everything's starting to come together. I'm very glad to be a little part of that and to do my piece, but it's really cool. I think what MB Collect symbolize is it almost feels like it's a very quiet launch for the biggest evolution. Like there's so much that's going to grow from that, and there's so much you're already learning, Kang, as well. That's going to then come through the boards. And I think for me, like the community aspect has actually been improved by NB Collect because people coming in and like calling up, being like, I placed an order. I'm coming in for Thursday, and can't wait to see everyone. I'm going to pick up my order and then play Commander. I love that. That the fact that instead of it being well, no one comes in now because the buyers aren't there and people just sort of order and they leave it. It's actually generating more community engagement. And I think that's very unique for a website. I think it's really special.
Going back to the passion before profit or over profit, like saying, it's like, I think it's the very same thing as where even though our website can be very like clean, what's the word when they call it sterile? It can be very sterile, right? And it's kind of like taking away the humanity of the situation. But what I really want to try and do is push into this like internet sphere, try and make our mark, but also keep the soul of what it is. If we can do things to drive engagement, I don't know if you boys noticed now, like our work chat that I've got on Instagram, I'm looking for artists because for some reason I knew I really needed to go to bed on time last night because I needed to get to Rockingham this morning and then back so that we could play our Warhammer Fantasy game, right? But instead, I stayed up to 2:30 in the morning messaging every artist that I know. And what I want to do as one of the launches for Northern Boards, for the board MB Collect, as we move into the this merch kind of situation, I want to collect up 5 of my favorite artists and get them to do Goblin tokens. And then each one of the Goblin tokens is going to be in their own art style, but also going to represent a charity. So that every time we sell one of them moving forward, it's going to donate to that charity. And what I'd like to do is try and push that narrative. And then every year, if it's something that's feasible, we can get 5 new artists to then run 5 new things and there's 5 new charities. And we can just constantly have that thing. And I really like the idea of keeping something within our community that we can give back and I just really want to keep the soul. I don't want to move into the internet and then remove ourselves from it. I really want to put ourselves even further in front and what we can do and build community wise. So like I said, making sure that people are aware of the events, making sure our faces on the front of it, being able to like provide something to someone so that they come across in a year from now, they come across Northern Boards because NB Collect exists. Like one of the biggest things we've talked about consistently, and it's a failure of mine, but it's a natural failure of every new business, is people will come down to the boards and they say, oh, like, how long have you guys been here? It's awesome. This is awesome. Yeah. And I have to now sheepishly say like 6 years. And the fact that they live 2 suburbs away and never heard of us means that we need to do something more or better. You're never going to capture everybody because of the loud white noise that is marketing. But the more we can do to get people to come down and spend time, because at the end of the day, like, not to get too like soppy about the whole thing, but you go into a situation where people are more retracted from communities and there's more separation of an environment of people. And it's like, if we can get more people in-house playing games, talking to people, finding friends, and a hobby club is always going to be a place where a lot of people come down without friends. They become very good regular customers, and the natural like evolution is they do find friends, and then they'll start playing those exact same games at home, and they're not as reliant on the club. But a lot of these people find friends that they will have for the rest of their lives, and that is their connection to us. And if we can be in the background that can then provide them just a hobby glue or a paint, but still this home that they can come back to every now and again, where they found their friendships, where then I've been to people. I know you're the same way. We've been to weddings and funerals and birth of kids and all this kind of stuff of people that you met playing silly little plastic men's rolling dice. And that's always where I always find it really funny, is like when you have the guy who's way too much into winning this game or getting this stat. I was like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point, man. The point is the guy who you're playing your game against. And no, you don't always get the best opponent, but it's like the whole point is like the environment and the humanity of the whole situation is so much more. And I played a lot of WoW. I think you've done the same. It's like there's just something you can't, no matter what video game is, you can't rebuild that connection of standing in front of someone. And
I think that's exactly true. And you know what, I've spoken with you about this, Danny, over the years many times, and Kang, actually, we spoke about something recently, which is how much people are able to regress into just existing through their phones and media. Yeah. I think we've gone from these places are important to provide a location for the community to these places for people are going to be more vital than they'll ever know. And before coming on the podcast today, I was actually I got some messages on my phone just before I drove off, and it literally was from people who I'm referred to as like, Uncle Michael or Uncle Kurgan to their children. Yeah. Because I was in a game store. And the only reason when I came over here that I was so miserable until I found like hobby stores, like the Games Workshop stores, until I found them. I didn't have friends. I didn't want to know people. I was waiting to go back to the UK. I didn't want to be here. And I gained a sense of place and community that I've never left. And now I want to serve in the long term and through Northern Boards as the vessel to do that, because welcoming environment, but more importantly, the soul was never lost in those spaces. When absolutely, you know what I mean? And yeah, I completely agree with you. It's so vital that these places exist, and I think places like Northern Boards that you guys have built, to say, is very special. And I'm excited to keep adding to it because it is very, very important.
Over the years, I've had hundreds of moments, like literally hundreds of moments. And I generally enjoy everything I do. Like no matter whether it's the trucks or the restaurants or the club, I really, really enjoy every single bit. I said to Kang, like even after the first $1,000 sales on $1,000 worth of sales on $1,000 worth of sales on MB Collect, I opened up the computer screen and it was like 2 a.m. and I just sat there and I stared at it for 20 minutes and just basked in the glory of like Kang's achievements, and like I just really, really enjoy what we do. And I've had so many moments with heaps of different people and laughs and chats and games and whatever. But there's something that will always stick with my mind, and it was a Blood Bowl tournament about 2 years ago. And it was the Blood Bowl community is a post 35 on average kind of group of people, you know what I mean? All lovely guys, but there was some people that had come down from Rockingham or up from Rockingham, and they walked through the door, and one guy said to another guy who had never been to the store, and I just happened to be around the corner, so they didn't know I was there, right? And he said, he's like, oh, it's nice to be back in a real game store. And I was like, oh yeah. Like the shit on the wall and the terrain everywhere and the tables and there's just that, because there's just something so visceral of a 45-year-old man, like
because he knows he's been around to stores. He's been around to these communities before.
You would have seen the legendary Valhalla store that used to exist many years ago and stuff. And that's exactly it. That's the feeling I got. And I love that people have echoed that. I love that you've heard that. And I love that, Kang, you're seeing like now you'll walk in and there's so many orders for you to go and
It's honestly very, very exciting.
Enjoy it right now while it's still good.
Exactly. Until I order my 100 Drizzt and start stocking the one card I
will buy every single Drizzt from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, just for Kurgan.
It's for Kurgan. It's like, this is 7th Dwarf, but 23 times. What's going on here?
Correct. But no, I think the other thing is really exciting as well is the fact that what's happening now is in a lot of media is this week. I don't know if you guys saw, but the UK Games Expo just happened. And there was sort of, I believe it was like 85,000 tickets sold, 50,000 of which were for activities at the expo itself. And the BBC was actually covering how vital that social connection was.
Absolutely.
And considering that, UK and Australia has a lot of similar social dynamics in many ways, very different in others. But one of the constant ones is that feeling of isolation and the driver to actually not go out and seek new experiences and see people. You don't technically need it. You can trick your brain into thinking you're getting that engagement through your phone and through your messenger bipping every now and again. But seeing that convention of so many people in a single day, going there just to meet other people, and just to, hey, we have a common thing.
Yeah.
Let's just chat.
It's
Let's chat about this.
fundamentally human.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very I hate this term in so many ways, but it's like, it's overused, but like it genuinely is life affirming.
Yeah.
You just look at that room and you see this single picture of people just enjoying being together. And there's not enough of that.
It
nowadays.
finally
So-
gives you a sense of, it's okay. Things are all right. In this crazy storm of the world where things are constantly, people are arguing each other and there's so much anger on the internet. Sometimes you have to separate from all that and just kind of go into live in the moment and you're like, it's okay. Things are okay. People are good.
And even when the anger's brought in, like you have those people that come on through and they're like, I can't believe this FAQ's ruined my life. And everyone else is like, and we're glad it ruined your life because you play an army we don't like. And everyone has a laugh. It's amazing.
It's
amazing.
beautiful. All right. We're at an hour, 30 minutes. It was very wonderful to have you on, Kurgan.
Thank you so much, guys.
It's funny.
Been a long time coming.
I mistakenly told my one of my very close friends and housemate and my son that I'd be back roughly about this time to go to the gym. And he's just called me and texted me, and I said, I'm still casting. Like you guys go ahead to the gym. I'll meet you there. And he says, you're joking. Surely you ain't got that much nerd shit to talk about.
Well, boy, howdy.
Anyway, part 2, 1 hour later. All righty.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. I massively appreciate it.
I appreciate you both.
Take it, care, everyone. See you around.
See you, bye.
Much exciting things.
Bye-bye.